This presentation will be very informal. And just while that's happening, I'd like to acknowledge Lee Taguchi, is it, for helping me do these slides. And it's another example of people stepping in and helping each other. I hadn't met Lee before this conference, and we had, on Thursday, we had all afternoon and part of the evening with a EB Without Borders strategy meeting, and I imagined at that time that we together would put a presentation together, but actually mine, and we didn't have time, of course, and my presentation was actually looking pretty shonky, so, you know, thanks very much for making it better. And also in this context, can I ask clinical nurse specialist Sharon Cassidy can you come and join us, please? Because I'll do a very brief, and the ambassadors, thought you'd just seat yourselves. Because very much in this context, Sharon is part of the EB Without Borders story. Who have we got? Loreto, Ingrid. Vlasta. Zlatko. Mia. This is a brief introduction. I should remind people that the ambassadors are volunteers, so they work really hard and have a great deal of experience, and were here long before the coordinator role was established. So we have Mia, Zlatko, Loreto, Ingrid, Ritu, Anna. Sharon and Vlasta will join us. Essentially, the coordinator role was established, 3 years ago, by the ambassadors team. And from the beginning, we've worked quite closely with EB Clinet. So requests of various types come from, I should make it, maybe I didn't make it clear, that EB Without Borders works in countries that don't have established DEBRAs. So requests of various types come in, and they come through into the coordinator, who then decides where they're best placed. It's followed up, and then it comes back to me. It'll be explained better as we go along. So I'd actually just like the ambassadors to tell their story this time. Normally at this presentation we focus very much on what we're doing at the moment, but because we have a lot of people here that haven't been in previous presentations, I think it's appropriate that we just find out where we've come from.
Who's going to start?
So...
Ritu has been doing a lot of work, and she will talk. I had been a year ago, the three of us, Leah and Sharon and I, went to China and met the DEBRA China people, and went to Beijing and Shanghai, and that has then meant that they've come here. So there's a lot of just encouraging the relationships and developing the networks that happens, behind the scenes all the time. Thank you for being here. But I'll hand over to Ritu.
I think Sharon's somewhat surprised to be suddenly sat here, but I do want to acknowledge all the support she gives to me as the coordinator, and she's very special because there's very, very, very few people who are willing to have that direct clinical contact with the patient, and so it's just a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally second that. Sharon, you've been amazing for us. You're like another Francis in this region. So thank you. Yeah, I think I've said quite a bit yesterday about what Singapore does, and a lot of what our work has already been mentioned. Some of the work, Singapore has a very small population of EB patients. So while we can help everyone in Singapore, we also try and do something for patients in the region. Most of South Asia and Southeast Asia is very poor and lacks resources. Most countries don't have the kind of wound care supplies that most of you and I have access to. A lot of the countries don't have those supplies, so we try and find ways to support some patients in countries. For example, some of the Asian countries have children who have been abandoned, EB children who've been abandoned by families. So they are taken up into orphanages. And they have, of course, the orphanages don't have any idea about how to care for them. So we try and send supplies to orphanages which have children with EB. We try to share advice on how to care for them. So particularly, we've been helping a child in Cambodia, another child in India. I'm very happy that the child in India is now being adopted by an American lady, by a single young graduate student who has chosen to adopt this orphan from India. Yeah. And what else? We help a lot of children in Pakistan. We send supplies. We've been trying to send supplies thanks to donations from Polymem. We've sent some supplies to Pakistan. We set up WhatsApp groups, and we try to do counseling through WhatsApp. We send videos of how to do dressings. We teach them on WhatsApp what not to do more often than what to do, because they have no idea. What else do we do? Indonesia, we're trying to set up Deborah in Indonesia. We meet with patients. In fact, a family just visited us last week in Singapore because they said we were the first people they knew of who understood what EB is. And they just wanted to touch my daughter because she was the only other child they knew of who has EB. So I guess more than really material help, we offer a lot of, we're there. Just the fact that we're there and we're willing to listen and share and talk means a lot to some families.
Hello, I'm Ingrid from Deborah Belgium. I wrote into this committee because at Deborah Belgium we do everything in 2 languages. We have 2 small communities. Half of Belgium speaks Flemish and the other part French. So our website is in 2 languages, and that's why I already, it started years ago, I got questions from in French from people living in the north of Africa, mainly from Morocco, Algeria and Tunisia. We didn't really set up concrete projects, but it's like you say, the fact that we are there, that we can communicate with them, that they can use our flyers, all our information. It's really a help for them, and they, some of them have set up closed Facebook groups. I am in the group. When there are questions, I can refer to French texts that are available on our website or at Deborah France. So it's mainly kind of contacted I am for the moment, and sometimes I feel a bit like, well, I don't do anything special, but again, last week I got a phone call from Tunisia simply to say thank you to be there. So it's the start.
Loreto from Deborah Chile. Well, we work all together with Deborah Spain, helping countries of South America, Spanish language. We receive many emails and questions, and we try to give them all the advice we can. We share our website, the material, and everything. Now, actually, we are working with Paraguay and Bolivia. They are trying to form a Deborah there. So, well, we try to do our best with Evanina from Deborah Spain. We work together.
Hello, Zlatko, Deborah Australia. I got involved with this project because I've been to Cuba a few times and realized that EB patients there really don't have much support at all. They get non-sterile gauze that sticks to their wounds, and they have really poor standard of living. So donations from Deborah Australia and Deborah New Zealand, we were able to send them some dressings. Working with Deborah Spain, we were able to send them all Spanish guidelines and information on how to treat the wounds better. We now know 12 different families across Cuba that are living with EB, and we're trying to help them set up Deborah Cuba.
And Zlatko was at, I think, was it last year's presentation, we mentioned how we were trying to develop Cuba, and after the presentation, Zlatko came up and said, "Oh, my wife is Cuban. We're going to Cuba in a matter of weeks." And
Yeah,
it was just incredible that we didn't know that, and that he hadn't mentioned that we were trying to focus. Oh, we had done some work in there in the past, but we really wanted to drive it forward. So if any of you suddenly think, "Oh, you know, I can help there," as Rachel from Brightstein has as well. I mean, maybe something could happen in Uganda.
I'm Mia from Sweden. Right now I'm working with a family in South Africa, Cape Town, who are found by coincidence, and trying to help them establish a Deborah group there. They have a little organization, and it's like one family. So that's what I'm doing now. Deborah, the Danish, trying to settle up a Deborah group also. I'm not involved with that, but I'm looking at it from behind. So if they need my help, of course I'm there. So that's what I'm doing.
I just want to mention one more thing, that we also do, we have some guidelines on what EB is. The thing that Amicus did, what is it called? The Amicus infographic. So because they've translated that into a few languages, we share that, as ambassadors, we share that with various countries. And we also try to use the wound care guidelines that have been developed by Deborah International with these groups. And because we work in linguistically diverse regions, we find that WhatsApp works very well, where one patient has access to one language and another doesn't, so they're able to translate from one to another. And I find that the wound care guidelines are coming in use very effectively because of WhatsApp and in these diverse nations.
I'm not sure if the man down the back can just pop on the slides that I had. Oh, okay.
Oh,
No. He can interrupt, yeah. Okay. So I first became involved doing some work with some families overseas in 2010. There was a family, perhaps the next slide, thank you. Oh, have you got that? Yeah, okay. The family here on my right, on my left, first family, their Samita had her sister living here in Wellington, and the little baby, the little girl there that was a baby then, Susmita, she was born in 2010, and of course the auntie here in Wellington wondered what she was going to, what they could do to help. And because I work in all of the South Island and the lower half, the North Island for New Zealand, I used to come to Wellington, and she looked on the Deborah New Zealand website and found that and contacted me. And so I had been communicating with her family since then. And so that's how I basically got to start communicating with families overseas. Before I got to visit Sri Lanka and actually got to go and visit these two families who have, another family had a baby also with EB, before I got to go there, I had been contacted again by Leah and Anna about other children around the world or other families that needed help, and I did, was asked to go to Singapore to help when you were setting up your Deborah Singapore and give some presentations there to the health professionals and families, and then went on also to on another visit to Malaysia, and as Dr. Leon said, did a road trip around a lot of the hospitals with some of the wound care reps from Moonlicker. Actually, they actually sponsored that, which was lovely. And since then, I have also, and Leah quite often will put me in contact with people in Indonesia, at the moment South Africa as well, and where else, Leah? Yeah, quite a few. Jane, my nursing colleague from New Zealand, has visited Tonga, and so she's helped there with a new baby as well, so it's all very good. I just wanted to show you... Yes, it was funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So when I go, though, I quite often will use a lot of resources that we use here in New Zealand, and they will be our saline guidelines that have been developed here in New Zealand, or the bleach guidelines, which our paediatrician dermatologist Diana Purvis, who spoke to us yesterday, had developed for Starship, mainly for eczema, but as she said, it's used for other skin conditions as well, and we do use it a lot with our families that have EB, and particularly going into the countries where the water supplies aren't clean, then that is something that, if they can use it, I try to encourage that. I know Samita said that it's quite hard in those areas because they don't have, they shower. So I've just got a couple of photos to show when I went to Sri Lanka, and it's only about 6 photos. So the next slide, I'll just talk to these slides for a minute. That's just me taking off with my little dressing bag for the day, off to visit the families. So what was different about my visit in Malaysia, going around to talk to the families and the health professionals, it was all in hospitals. And I'm actually a paediatric community nurse back in Christchurch. So going into the homes is really important for me, because I think that you then see what the families have to work with, and you don't, have this big, hat on, or, shaking the finger or anything. This is what you have to do. And that's basically what Samita was saying, that, people don't have the resources. So it was great to go into the home. So they would send, I suppose they call them wee tuk-tuks there as well, to pick me up each morning, and I would go off for the day and work with the families. So the next slide... have you got the... Oh, there are. The next slide's just showing that I did still go into a hospital environment, and this was in Colombia, and worked with the health professionals there. And I thought I was just going to the dermatology clinic, or the skin clinic they call it, to see the two families with the professor that was working with them. But when I got there was 14 families waiting for me, and I only knew of 2 families there. But the professor has said that he thinks they have about 400 people in Sri Lanka with EB, but he only sees a handful of them as well. So it's about trying to reach out to those families that haven't got any supports at the moment too. So they are working on that. So the next slide will show just meeting with the families afterwards. No, it's not a good photo, sorry. But again, it's, oh heavens, I thought I was seeing 2 families here, and then I have all these families. But as I said, going out to the homes was the way, and I'd only organised to go to 2 homes. When I did go, I did take a great big suitcase full of dressings, and I am very lucky in my role as a paediatric nurse. I'm also the wound resource nurse at Christchurch Hospital, and I sit on several committees, and one of them at the moment is product review committee. So we've actually have about 400 products in the hospital that our clinicians can use for wound care, and we decided that was far too much, so we've culled it to half, so there's about 200 now. So I said, well, if you're not needing anything, please send them my way. But actually my garage is quite full up now with product, which is, it's all very nice to ask for these things, but sometimes I think you do have to be careful what you ask for. So it's how to shift these now, because it gets quite expensive to send products, and some of them are slightly expired, but we send products anyway to the islands. You know, we don't want things to go to waste, so some of them can be used after their pass-by date. So we get these, but so what I've done, I've written to Emirates, because Emirates, you know, the envelopes that you have on the aeroplane that sometimes put your loose change in, they say that they donate to India and Sri Lanka and, you know, some of those other places. So I'm hoping they will come to the party and shift some of the product for us. And then where there's a need, they can go to those places. So if I get the product, because I'm still given product all the time from the hospital, so then I can shift it to wherever people need it, hopefully. Sorry, and the next slide might just show, as Samita was saying, you know, they don't bath, they shower, but then it's painful. A lot of the patients say it's painful to shower, and I did witness little Samita having a shower, Samita having a shower, and it was painful for her. So, and her brother, one day we were my husband came with me to actually bring the suitcase over. There's a bit of a story with that, actually. He was very lucky. He got up, I won't go into it, but he got upgraded because of what he was doing, so that was very nice. So I said, I've never been upgraded before. So anyway, he brought the suitcase over with dressings, and we stayed in a hotel by the family home, and we said to the little boy, come over to the hotel and come swimming with us. And I thought it would be all right for Susmita to come as well, because, you know, as you heard from Billy yesterday, he likes to go swimming, and I thought, well, she would like to go swimming, and the chlorine would be good for her as well. But they said, no, they wouldn't like that, and that wouldn't be... And again, I don't understand that cultural thing, so it's lovely. The research you're going to be doing, Samita, will be great. But what I did find, we were going on a trip one day just, you know, to have a look around, and we came across a road stool that had blow-up swimming pools on it. I thought, that's what we need. So we stopped and bought one for the family. And so little Susmita, who had been watching us on the balcony swimming, and I felt so sad. We were in the pool swimming, and I taught her brother how to do backstroke, and it was all really cool, and she was, you know, laughing and clapping and everything. But the next day, we bought the pool and we blew it up, and then she had her very own swimming pool and bath, which was lovely. And we put the bleach and the salt into that, and now she can have a bath. And as Samita said, you know, sometimes the other family had a baby bath, and the little girl was 7, and she was, you know, really cooped up in this little baby bath. So we went for ages to try and find another baby bath for her, but we couldn't. But we left money for, as soon as they went back to that roadside stall, they could buy one for them. So I sort of encouraged, I think, who was it that was going to, some of the girls from the UK are going to, India soon, and I just thought, you know, that's really cheap to get swimming pools. So I think that's, one more slide, I think. So Moonliquor, you know, the wound care companies are very kind to us, and Moonliquor very kindly have donated a lot of this product to us. Unfortunately, the Deborah New Zealand girls spoke with them at a wound care conference in Rotorua this year, and we just said, look, if you ever have any product that you don't need, or, you know, get sent back, or damaged boxes, and the next thing, a box with brand new product in it, but it had been damaged, so they sent it to us. So that's sitting in my garage at the moment. So that product won't expire till 2012, but we need to move it on. 2012. 2020. Yeah, 2020. Yeah. And also Ergo have also supplied product to us before as well. So, you know, that's been really good. I'll wind up this one more slide. But I think, as Samita said, I've talked about the protocols. What I did find, you've got to think about what the resources are in their country. So what I did see one day behind this fence, I said, what are all those coconut shells? And what are you doing with those? Why are they locked up behind the fence? And they said, because we break them down into activated carbon, And I said, oh, really? And sort of that sort of, a light went on for me because we have carbon in wound dressings, and the carbon absorbs moisture and takes the smell away. And in the countries, in the hot countries, they don't always want to be wearing dressings, or if obviously they can't afford the dressings, and we can't always put the Band-Aid on by sending them. So I'm thinking, well, what could we do with this with coconut? So I found a pharmacist that is going to try and make a potion up for us, and I think just an ointment or something for it to go in, and hopefully that will help with smell. It's not going to heal or anything, and it probably won't. They won't be able to soak the moisture up quite the same, but at least it will help with keeping the wound moist and help with some smell. So watch the space. Hopefully that will happen.
I love the innovation, ingenuity, Kiwi DIY. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I like the idea of the banana leaves though too. That would be great.
Yeah. Soon we're going to morph into the low resource wound care, but would you like to talk about EB Without Borders?
Sorry, I was a little bit late because I had to help to my son. I'm Vlasta Zmazek from Croatia, and I'm involved since the beginning with EB Without Borders for that Southeast Europe region, and the need appears somehow. I supported, so to say, a little bit of history, supported the developing of Debra Slovenia, Debra Bosnia, Serbia. I was there in Russia at the beginning. I was in Poland, Moldova, supporting people to organize small Debras there. This year, as a member of Eurodis, as a delegation which went to Tehran, Iran, I was there with their group for rare diseases, and I was actually surprised that they have 3 centers for EB. They have dressings not in the quantities they need, but they have. They got it from Ministry for Social Welfare. Why I was surprised? Because when those migration for refugees started, it happened that we were host for one family from Iran who was walking, trying to go to Germany with all these refugees. So they were for 2 weeks at our Debra apartment. They were in Children's Hospital. We talk a lot about all issues concerning EB because they were complaining all the time that nobody knows anything, that they cannot have dressings, they cannot, nobody understands them, and things like this. And they have their goal to reach Germany. And actually, I'm not pleased that I have to say, but the EB was not a real, that was just excuse for them. That was not the reason. They had all they need in their own country, but there were other reasons they want to leave country, Iran. So I was really surprised, and very often we have to visit a country. We have to see where the people live, how they cope, what they can get, what not. Because unfortunately, yes, the disease is very demanding, financially demanding for every family. And sometimes people are just looking for financial support. Yeah.
Sorry, Vlasta, I hate to interrupt you at the moment, and you've only just started, but I'm aware that Dr. Pallison needs to go at 11, so perhaps if people could, Vlasta has a long history with EB Without Borders and some really, really interesting things to say, so maybe if you have any questions, you can hit her up at morning tea, but if we could move on to the wound care, low resource wound care session now.
No problem.